So sometimes you hear people talking about things being broken. Society's broken, the government's broken, that large institution's broken, it's not functioning right. It sounds as though things might get a little bit worse before they're going to get better. I don't know how you understand that, but that's what I sort of understand. But anyway, although that may sound bleak, we also know, as I said, that the writings affirm that the mission of Baha'u'llah will be fulfilled. And there's always this great confidence expressed in the Baha'is and in our capacity to carry out the mission of the faith. Shoghi Effendi said in World Order of Baha'u'llah, consciousness, addressing the Baha'is, consciousness of their high calling, confident in the society building power which their faith possesses, they press on. So he refers to the faith as this healing agency, this cementing power endowed with such potentialities that it can rebuild a broken world and regenerate an individual. So when Shoghi Effendi, you have to think about it, wrote this, that the Friends are conscious of their high calling and confident in the society building power of their faith. This was at a time in 1936 when it was a very small American Baha'i community. And looking around them in these little scattered pockets of Baha'is, may have been hard to sort of really take in what Shoghi Effendi was saying about the society building power of their faith. But I think now, in the last 10, 15 years, and seeing what is happening in our communities and in so many countries around the Baha'i world that have moved to another level of community building as part of the civilization building process, I think we're getting a much clearer picture of what these society building powers are. The Guardian always acknowledged our fewness of numbers, but that in no way diminishes our mission or the forces propelling our mission forward, the spiritual forces, so that the mission and purpose of Baha'u'llah are fulfilled. These forces are born of God and are moving mankind, as Shoghi Effendi said, inexorably toward a new world civilization. And I'm using his words because his words are precise, all right? So this is what I'm trying to emphasize. Rahia Khanum used to say that sometimes friends would say, can't we have some extracts where the language is just sort of paraphrased at a different level? She used to get quite upset about that, actually. And of course, we all paraphrase words, and that's important. We have to be able to express it in our own words. But the Guardian used words very precisely. And so when he says that this process, that these forces are moving mankind inexorably toward a world civilization, then we know, it's a relentless, it's unalterable. All right? It's not to be turned back. You can use a lot of words, other words, but that one says it exactly the way Shoghi Effendi wanted it said. Okay? So one interesting thing is that, of course, being aware of the power of the manifestation that is assuring that this process is going forward and that the aim of his dispensation will be fulfilled, and that we're all receiving divine assistance in fulfilling this divine purpose. There's another interesting thing that Shoghi Effendi shares that is, again, an aid to this whole movement toward a new civilization. And he said that the creative energies released by the heroic age will crystallize into that world society which in the fullness of time is to mirror forth the brightness of Baha'u'llah's glory. So that was interesting to me because it shows that the ages, the three ages that the Guardian used to mark out the unfoldment and evolution of the faith, they're not divided necessarily by such sharp boundaries. Yes, of course, we know that the heroic age ended when? Over there? Who has the answer over in that corner? Anyone? Anyone? I think we'll go over here. Yeah. 1921, exactly. With the passing of Abdu'l-Baha was the end of the heroic age, and we are now in the formative age. All right, formative age, working toward the golden age. Okay. So yes, we know that there was that year when we moved into the formative age, but what it says is that the spiritual forces flow from one age to the next, all right? And it's the same with the epics of the faith. Of course, we know that the epic we're in now, which began in 2001. All right, we entered the fifth epic in 2001. There was a date, but each epic has its own. It has its own sort of character, and the Shoghi Effendi said that each one gives an impetus, a new impetus to the whole process of building the New World Order of Baha'u'llah. So there is this spiritual. It's not just dates. It's a spiritual process that the Guardian marked out. And likewise with the Golden Age, I imagine, I mean, I don't know, obviously, I imagine that we're not going to be able to say, the Golden Age started in 2419. No, I think probably it'll be a period when certain conditions will come into being, and it'll be very clear that during that period, humankind entered a new age. It's similar to what was described in the Century of Light, that it was looking back on the last century, that it could be described as a period during which world unity and undertakings really came into being. All right, there wasn't any specific date, not like the Battle of Hastings, 1066. That's for Sarah, wherever she is, okay? All right. But it's a period, okay? So as I said, the world civilization, the founding of the world civilization will synchronize, this is Shoghi Effendi, with the initial stages of the unfoldment of the Golden Age. So that's interesting when you think about it. That means that there will be different stages of development in the Golden Age, okay? So I was just going to share with you two little thoughts about this because they're just sort of personal points of learning for me, and you might find them interesting if you've ever thought about it. Well, one is that I always pictured that life in the Golden Age would be rather easy, rather relaxed. Not exactly all of us sort of resting on low divans eating grapes, but something that we would all sort of sit back and say, well, we've done it, you know, this is what a joy, and so on. But then I read this one line in the Guardian that said, with the age that is still unborn, meaning the Golden Age, with its Herculean tasks and unsuspected glories, we need not concern ourselves at present. Well, I love the unsuspected glories, but what about these Herculean tasks? Wait a minute. Okay, now again, a very precise word by Shoghi Effendi. Herculean. He could have used a lot of other words, all right, for that, okay? Major, significant, I mean, a lot of words. He used Herculean, and it's often, you know, capitalized because it refers to Hercules. Okay, young people probably know about that. Anyway, that means that it requires great strength, intensity. It's very difficult. This is the Golden Age. Okay, maybe you all knew that, but that to me was a little bit of a surprise. Then a second important point, maybe more important point about the Golden Age, which is we shouldn't dwell on it, okay? Shoghi Effendi says, he advises us not to dwell on far-off goals, okay? Or concern ourselves with what the Golden Age will be like, but to concentrate our energies on the needs of the present hour, okay? So even, and because the Guardian would get letters, as I said, about that, and he said, leave it to the passage of time and so on. The House of Justice also gets letters like that, okay? And I've seen a number of those letters. The Friends very interested. You know, we're working on our local communities of getting the core activities underway, and the Friends are writing with questions about the world superstate, all right? And so the House very politely says it's, you know, fruitless to speculate about those things now. Certainly don't argue about those things now. And usually would end with something like this. This is taken from a letter to an individual believer. We are in the early stages of a vast evolutionary process of development that will in time lead to a transformation in all aspects of the life of the Baha'i community and the functioning of its institutions. So we are always having to adjust to change, evolution and change, all right? I mean, when we became Baha'is, we signed on for change, didn't we? And that is the process that we are involved in, so that it will, what the process that is going forward will dramatically change the nature of Baha'i community life, even as we know it now. All right? And much less the way the world is organized. New forms, Abdu'l-Baha said. I remember Hand of the Cause, Mr. Khadem, and we used to see him before we went pioneering. This is now going back many, many years ago. I see him at Greenacre every summer. And there was one phrase that he always used to repeat, and he said, everything in this faith progressive. Not just progressive revolution, everything progressive. That's why the Shoghi Effendi, Abdu'l-Baha said that the House of Justice keeps us at the forefront of progressive movements. We're always moving forward. Everything is progressive. All right. Back to our mission about building a new civilization. So we have the clear assurances from the central figures of the faith that we are up to the task. In The Secret of Divine Civilization, Abdu'l-Baha, Shoghi Effendi referred to that as Abdu'l-Baha's outstanding contribution to the reorganization of the world. It's a little thin book. It's a wonderful book, and he covers so many topics, and really so many world leaders would benefit by reading it now. But he talks about the role of what should be the role of the leaders of government and of thought, and talks more further about the principle of collective security, and addresses the claims that the vision of our faith is utopian or impractical. It's a wonderful book. Also, again, as I said, this is a big topic, and I can't go into all of the things, but if you reread one of the letters in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, I've spoken mostly about the one that is titled The Unfoldment of World Civilization, but the one, The Goal of a New World Order, which really describes some of the characteristics of the world system that will be part of the world civilization. I think that's very useful. I can just mention a few things. I mean, we know, of course, the things that we talk about, like the principles of the international auxiliary language and the systems of weights and measures and so on. Some of these things you can actually see now, some of these things, the movement forward towards some of these principles of a new world system. Some things moving a little more quickly than other things. For example, whenever we talk about the international language, one of our friends whose son is a pilot always said, oh, well, we have that in airspace already. English is the international language of airspace. All right, everybody has to communicate in English. So that was kind of interesting to me because I never thought about that. But The Guardian lists many other things. He talks about a world metropolis, reconciliation of science and religion. This is what we will anticipate. Press liberated from influence of contending governments. Economic resources, I'm just giving a little summary. Economic resources organized, markets coordinated, equitable distribution. National rivalries, hatreds, and prejudices will cease. Causes of religious strife removed. Economic barriers abolished. Extremes of wealth and poverty eliminated. Energy and resources wasted on war will be dedicated to extend the range of human inventions and technological development to increase the productivity of mankind. Extermination of disease, scientific research, raising the standard of physical health, exploitation of unused and unsuspected resources of the planet, and the prolongation of human life. These are just some of the points that The Guardian discusses and describes in that wonderful letter that gives us a picture of that world system, that world commonwealth that are all going to be part of the World Order of Baha'u'llah. It's in the book World Order of Baha'u'llah, and one of the letters is entitled, one of the sections is entitled The Goal of a New World Order. I understand that those titles actually were not given by The Guardian, but by Horace Holly. I don't know, someone else here may know more about that, but it's certainly a big help to have them if he did do that. Well, the dispensation of Baha'u'llah is in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, in that volume, yes, and that's a major message. All right. So, we've talked about different characteristics of this world civilization that we're working toward, and one thing to keep in mind, and of course the progress in the integrating forces around us now that are working toward that, not just the Baha'is, but other forces and other groups also working in that direction. But we have to remember that we're not just striving for a world civilization, but a divine civilization, a spiritualized civilization. And that's why that is part of our work, the lesser plan. So there is a structure, a kind of a framework, a body that will be the nature of this world civilization, of this new world order. But we are, as the writings say, to breathe the spirit into that body. The body needs its soul, and that's the work of the faith, to bring about that unity of religion, so people feel not only their common humanity, but our common faith. So it's not just about building communities and setting up structures, it's about transformation. That's fundamentally what we're talking about. Not only social transformation, but spiritual transformation. For Baha'u'llah said, it's not the object of every revelation to effect a change in the whole character of mankind, a transformation that shall manifest itself both inwardly and outwardly, that shall affect both the inner life and external conditions. That's the heart of what we are working on. That's in the Kitab Yagan. Of course, the next line is the one that sort of gets you right here. He says, for if the character of mankind be not changed, you know what he says, the futility of God's universal manifestation would be apparent. We don't want to be responsible for that, do we? Okay, so this is our work. What are we doing to bring about this transformation? How do we go about it? How much have we achieved? Of course, there's the personal side to this transformative process. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Sunday. But we've been discussing now today, and we will more tomorrow, really, the society building power of the faith that the garden refers to, the potential to rebuild a broken world. In terms of broad achievements so far, sometimes we really forget how far we've come and how much we have achieved. That's why, as I said, the Rizwan messages of the House of Justice are so important. They are the lens through which we really understand and get that perspective on what we're doing. And if you go back to the Rizwan 2006 message, all right, Rizwan 2006, the House of Justice, I think I have it here, describes, got too many papers here, describes what has been taking place in the world All right, the first part was about this world solidarity, spirit of world solidarity that's coming to the fore. And I read you that at the beginning. But then it says what is even more significant, really, the most significant developments are in the process of integration, particularly those associated with the faith. And I won't read that, but it's a long paragraph, a very long paragraph that gives us perspective of sort of how far we've come from what the House says was a small nucleus of Baha'is in different communities around the world to, our reputation in international circles now, all right? Besides all the achievements in the faith in terms of the administrative order in over 190 countries and, people of absolutely all religious, racial, ethnic backgrounds in the faith and so on. But the reason I'm thinking particularly of this the respect that we command really in international circles and forums and so on, is I'm reminded of a friend, a Baha'i friend in the UK, who was telling me that he participated in a particular program where Prince Philip was there and the representatives of different religions and so on. And one of the participants, and the Baha'is are always very active in so many activities there and things that relate to external affairs, and now what we talk about influencing the public discourse at different levels. This is obviously the highest level in a sense. And one of the sort of dignitaries that was an organizer in this came and talked to him and said, we appreciate so much what the Baha'is have done in this place and this place. And he said, how many of you are there here in the UK? Well, the man, as we I think what he said was something like, we have elected institutions in, and I don't know how many hundreds. Do you know how many it is that where they will say, we have elected institutions in 300 or 400 towns and villages and cities. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. He didn't want to tell him that there were only about 5,000 Baha'is there in that country because they act like there are 5 million. You see what I mean? In other words, that's the reality and that's the reputation we have. You know, at the UN, and how many different forums and conferences, particularly obviously in the NGO world I'm talking about, where the Baha'i representatives are always asked to chair, the Baha'i representatives are asked to prepare this and so on. So it far exceeds our numbers, all right? Okay. I remember years ago, many years ago, when we were living in Massachusetts, as were the Sackos, we're just seeing them now after many years. Um, and my husband's sister, my sister-in-law, was getting married, and my mother-in-law came up to help with the wedding. She was not a Baha'i. And at the last minute, my sister-in-law decided she wanted to carry flowers. So my mother-in-law went to a flower shop to get some flowers, okay? Anyway, there were only 4 Baha'is in this town, okay? My husband and I were there, and there were 2 girls at the college. It was a college town, right? But we were having regular firesides, and we were always putting in notices weekly in this paper about our firesides with these quotations and so on and everything, and having lots of programs. So he said, when do you need the flowers? When are they for? She said, tomorrow. It's a Baha'i wedding. And that's what she said. It's a Baha'i wedding. They need the flowers tomorrow. And he said, oh, Baha'is, they're all over this town. So, but what's really important is when they say that, at the UN, or the deputy prime minister says it, and they're so impressed with the Baha'is. That's the kind of reputation we have. We shouldn't forget that. All right. Now, how do we go about transforming the world? That brings us kind of to the last part of today's discussion, which is a link to tomorrow's about the current enterprise. And of course, that has to do with the global plans. To build anything, one needs a plan, all right? And Shoghi Effendi gave us the initial plans. He called them broad outlines. And he said that the role of the House of Justice would be to oversee a series of plans over successive epochs. Those are his words. A series of plans over successive epochs, reaching, quote, as far as the fringes of the golden age. So they're going to be going on for quite a while. We don't know when that time will be, but it's certainly all through our lifetime. And of course, that is just what the House of Justice has done. Rahia Khanum used to say that the Guardians would talk about plans, more plans, and the plan. And of course, the plan was the divine plan, given to us by Abdu'l-Baha in the tablets of the divine plan. And as co-inheritors of the divine plan, that's with the Canadians, but as chief executors of the divine plan, those are the Americans. Now, obviously, you're saying, what about Canada? Well, this is not any kind of thing to boast about, the fact that the Guardian referred to the Americans as the chief executors. On the contrary, it should heighten our sense of responsibility, that we're doing things well and we're doing them right. And in fact, the House of Justice wrote to the National Assembly at one point and said that the United States needed to distinguish itself in the global plans, not in something else, but in the global plan to which the whole world is committed. And that's how we distinguish ourselves, by doing our best in fulfilling all aspects of the global plan. So I think you're very familiar with the document, the tablets of the divine plan. I'm sure you've studied those in letters at the summer school before. It was Abdu'l-Baha's grand design for the conquest of the planet. That's what Shoghi Effendi referred to it as. So these plans represent successive stages in establishing the world order of Baha'u'llah and laying the foundation for a divine civilization out of which will come universal and lasting peace. To me, what's fascinating is how this is an evolutionary process, and the continuity from the time of Baha'u'llah through Abdu'l-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, and the House of Justice, not only in the vision, but even in the language. So often we think, oh, haven't encountered that term or whatever, something the House of Justice uses. But it's very interesting. Baha'u'llah wrote about entry by troops. Abdul Baha back in Paris in 1912, if I have that. Excuse me. He said this to the Friends back in 1912, "My earnest desire is that you will be faithful and loving workers in the building of the new spiritual civilization." That's back in 1912, all right? Shoghi Effendi used the word systematic, intensive teaching, community building, all right? He wrote that each global plan is part of a systematic effort designed to foster the faith's organic development. Okay, that didn't come in just with the messages from the House. This is what the Guardian described, that this is an organic process, unfolding process. You know, just at the beginning of the fifth epoch, that's in 2001, if you remember the letter, I think it was 16 January 2001, when the House of Justice announced, that was at the time of the gathering of all the auxiliary board members in Haifa, just after the inauguration of the International Teaching Center. The House of Justice announced that we had entered the fifth epoch, all right? Soon after that, teaching center members traveled because there was a new plan and so on. And I went to India, and you know, the Indians are great. They read, they're readers, all right? And they like to know exactly where everything is, and they want to be up to date with all the messages, and where did you find that, and that kind of thing, and so on and so on. So I was meeting with all the auxiliary board members, and I said, you know, I just want to share this one thing, sort of comments about our work and our, you know, our marching orders. So I read this quotation, and it said, "New epoch opening, demanding exertions incomparably more strenuous, unflinchingly sustained, systematically organized, efficiently conducted." And so I said, "Do you remember where that is?" No, and they're all trying to think, you know, which message, was that the latest message of the House? Was it a letter to such and such and everything? And I said, try 1944, Messages to America, Shoghi Effendi, all right? So that's what I'm talking about in continuity of language, okay? So another thing that I think is an important perspective to have on the global plans, that these are not just plans. These plans, you know, they reflect the power of the covenant. They come to us through the head of the faith and the power and spiritual guidance that flows through that source, whether it's Shoghi Effendi or the Universal House of Justice. So they are divinely inspired plans. You know, in one place, the House of Justice says that they are to fit the plans are designed to fit the requirements of the time. And I think being at the World Center for so many years and seeing what the House of Justice would write to different national assemblies, of course, to the Baha'i world and our global plans, but then other measures that were taken, because the House of Justice, you know, it has all this information really at its fingertips about what's going on in the Baha'i world. Sometimes the Friends write and say, "You don't know what's happening here," kind of thing. "We've got to tell you, we're going to tell you about this. We're very concerned," all right, you know, and the House writes back and sort of tries to allay their anxiety. The House knows, believe me, the House knows, all right? But I remember, because at the time I was working with Afghanistan and Pakistan. That was before 9/11. Okay, I traveled to Peshawar in 2000. I did not go back after 2001. And the House of Justice gave a small plan to the counselors working with Afghanistan, and that was to take at least 50 people through the entire sequence of courses. There were all these Afghan refugees in Pakistan, okay? They couldn't go back to Afghanistan at the time, and obviously. And so to prepare them for their eventual repatriation. And so at least the House wanted at least 50, and the counselors saw that 100 of these refugees were taken through the sequence of courses so that there would be enough friends to really start the community building activity when they returned. Well, they returned much sooner than they ever expected. And as soon as the country was open up for them return, these tutors and children's class teachers and so on went back to begin to lay the foundations in that community. So it is the House really gives plans, gives instructions, guidance to fit the requirements of the time, not only in the outside world, but what are the needs of our communities, our world community, also often our national communities at that particular time, because they have a deep understanding, of course, of the affairs of the faith, but also constantly studying situation around the world, which is also one of the responsibilities of the Teaching Center. So every believer has the has the opportunity to participate in the achievement of these plans, in contributing to the building of the divine civilization, and experiencing the joy of service to the cause. That is what that is why we strive to do our part in carrying out the particular global plan that we're working with, which then comes, our national plan is derived from that global plan, our regional plan is derived from that, and our cluster plan. And all of our local assemblies or local communities are all working for their piece in carrying out the work of the cluster plan. That is the kind of unity of undertakings that we have in the Baha'i world. Now, of course, you know that things could have been a lot easier, but it wasn't the destiny of our faith. You're aware of that, I'm sure, because Shoghi Effendi explained that Baha'u'llah offered the opportunity to the kings and rulers of the world to establish the most great peace during their time. The kings and rulers, both secular and ecclesiastical, had absolute power over their subjects, complete authority, all right? And he wrote them, as you know, these letters, these people, their populace, bring people together, reduce their armaments, follow his peace program, the teachings of his revelation, and at that time create a lasting peace, which of course is the fruit of a new civilization. They needed to accept the truth of his mission and to put into practice universally his teachings. And they had the power to do so. Shoghi Effendi explains that. Baha'u'llah himself then wrote in the tablet to Queen Victoria, and he was admonishing the kings and rulers there. He said, "Now that ye have refused the most great peace, hold ye fast unto this, the lesser peace, that happily ye may in some degree better your own condition and that of your dependents." All right. I was giving a class to some youth at the World Center on the tablets to the kings and on history itself. And after I talked about this, of what was offered to the kings and rulers and how they turned their back on this, and so now this is our work and so on, one of the youths said, "Wow, they really blew it." And he's right, they did, yes. But the Universal House of Justice repeated this concept in a letter to the Baha'is. They reminded the Baha'is about this. And they wrote, "The mighty ones of the world rejected the call of Baha'u'llah. And now it is upon us ordinary men and women that he has conferred the inestimable bounty of raising up the kingdom of God on earth." That's why on Saturday we're talking about the inestimable bounty, all right? So, friends, you are the lucky ones. You are the favored ones because you are here on Thursday and you are going to have a longer break. Because I am finished with my remarks. I just want to say that tomorrow and the next day, we'll be talking about how we're laying the foundation for the new civilization and how we can play, excuse me, our part, as the Guardian says, however small, in the greatest drama of the world's spiritual history. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, everyone. Wasn't that wonderful? Yeah. We're so lucky to have Dr. Walker here with us, aren't we, friends? So I just wanted to take a moment to give you guys a sense of what the rest of the morning will look like. Basically, right now, we're going to be taking about a 15-minute break. And just wanted you guys all to know that once we come back from the break, you'll hear a little bell. We'll ring a bell, finish up your coffee. I think there's going to be coffee in the lobby. And then when you come back, everyone, I want you to look at your name tags right now, and this will be helpful for the rest of the summer school. You have 3 buildings, and if you look at it from, just hold it up in front of you from left to right, the furthest one on the left indicates today, Thursday morning, and that's the number of the room you're going to be in today. The next one's Friday, and the next one's Saturday. Does that make sense so far? So far, so good? So if your name tag says 512, you're going to be in room 5 for the breakout sessions this morning, then 1 tomorrow, then 2 the next day. Okay? And now I'm going to show you where the rooms are. Are you ready for me to tell you where the rooms are? Okay. So, thanks to the summer school committee, we have this beautiful map. You are here at 5. If you're with 5, you'll be with me this morning. Who's in 5? All right. So let's go backwards. 1 is going to be right here, this door. Can you guys point to that door for me? Awesome. 2, you're going to be right here. Can you guys point to that door for me? 2. Thank you. 3, this is where we're going to meet with number 3. And hopefully all the chairs are ready at number 3. Okay, great. And number 4 is right over here. So, in order to get to 1 and 4, you have to come through the auditorium. So, we have a group meeting in 5, which is right here. We're going to move the chairs. And if I can get my friends in 5 to help me once the break is over, we're going to make a circle in here for the friends that are in group 5. The friends that are going to be in 1 and 4 are going to be walking through our group right here. So if you could help us, shh, be quiet. All right? Anything else? Do you guys understand the name tag stuff? Questions? Okay. Oh, you have 6 on your? Okay. So for today, no one should have 6. If you do, you're reading your name tag wrong. But tomorrow and on Saturday, we're going to have a 6th group, and that will be there will be a new map, and we'll let you know then where 6 is. It's a mystery, so stay tuned. Stay tuned. You guys got it? Any more questions? Yeah. What did you say? When you hear the bell, ding, 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 ding. 10 minutes. Any more questions? Thank you, guys.
What channels that go into me? One and two? Two. Play some audio?
It's plugged in. Yes.
All right, are you playing audio?
Playing audio. Let's try this audio. Hold on. Okay, that's working. Then why is this not working? Hold on. We're doing it.
Make sure it's all the way pushed in if it's on your phone.
Why do you think this is not playing up the phone? Good? There's different ways to enable it. All right, so when we go, just leave this audio cord on so I can just plug it and it'll go. Because the volume seems okay when I transfer back and forth between the laptop and the phone.
Okay, gotcha. I'll just leave it on one setting. And then if you want to take your volume to about 75%, because that way we don't have distortion.
All right, I'll do that on both. Let's leave
Yeah,
it
both.
leave it on. I'm gonna put on 75% on both and then see how it works. So hold on.
I got plenty more I can give you.
All right, hold on.
The lyrics, do you know the song? I can see clearly now. I sing the melody, you sing, or no, I sing the accompaniment, you sing the melody or the whatever.
So I think that needs to be a little louder and then maybe make a note of where you put it. That sounds good.
Okay, switch over now. Let's see 75% on your phone. Really loud. Take your phone down to about 50%.
Yeah, the phone wasn't on 75.
I feel like this is the beginning. Though I've loved you for a million years.
I think I can make it now.
It's fine, and if you guys have to adjust on the fly, then do it.
I find myself drowning in tears.
Cool. Good deal. Thanks, guys. Do you want to try the video on this? Make sure we're working off my laptop?
Yeah, let's do that. You've got it plugged in?
Yeah.
So we got to switch over up here to. Okay, cool.
I want to try something. Give me a second.
Poland, September 1939.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right.
We're rolling. Secrets of spiritual success, man. That's right, man. Crush Poland. Spiritually succeed. Enough said. Well, that's the other moral to the story. If you're gonna have a war, win it.